There are some relationships in life that feel normal. You meet someone, you talk, things slowly develop, and life moves naturally. But then there are other connections, the kind that enter your life like a storm. You meet a person, and suddenly your emotions become louder, your thoughts become deeper, your sleep changes, your heart feels pulled toward them in a way you cannot logically explain. Sometimes you barely know them, yet they already feel strangely familiar. In Vedic astrology, these are often called karmic relationships. And today, we are going to talk about what karmic relationships really mean in Vedic astrology, why they happen, how they change people, and why some of the deepest soul connections are not always the easiest ones. Because not every person comes into your life to stay forever. Some people come to awaken something inside you. And usually, karmic relationships do exactly like that. One of the biggest signs of a karmic relationship is intensity. Everything feels amplified. The attraction becomes powerful very quickly. The emotional attachment becomes deep. Even silence between both people feels meaningful. Sometimes the connection feels magical, sometimes exhausting, and sometimes both at the same time. You may feel, I have known this person before. Why cannot I move on from them? Why does this connection affect me so deeply? In Vedic astrology, these experiences are often connected to unfinished karma between two souls, especially through the influence of Rahu and Ketu. Rahu and Ketu are considered the karmic axis of astrology. Rahu represents obsession, desire, craving, unfinished hunger. Ketu represents past life memory, detachment, spiritual residue, and things already experienced before. And when these planets strongly connect with another person's chart, the relationship can feel destined. Rahu often creates the feeling of, I need this person. Ketu creates, I already know this person. And both energies, when become active together, relationships can become unforgettable. For example, when someone's Rahu touches another person's moon or Venus, attraction can become overwhelming. The connection may feel addictive. You keep thinking about them, even after separation, even after years sometimes. Rahu relationships often feel larger than life. But Rahu also creates illusion. This is why many karmic relationships begin with fascination. You may see the person as perfect, different from everyone else, almost unreal. Then slowly, reality begins to appear. And this is where the lesson begins. Karmic relationships are rarely just about romance. They are usually about transformation. These relationships force hidden emotions to surface. Your fears, your insecurities, your attachment patterns, your emotional wounds. Sometimes the relationship becomes the mirror you never wanted but deeply needed. A person may enter your life and suddenly you become more emotionally aware than ever before. You realize how much validation you seek, how afraid you are of abandonment, how deeply you fear rejection, or how much emotional pain you are silently carrying. This is why karmic relationships can feel spiritually intense. They shake the soul. Another important planet in karmic relationships is Saturn. If Rahu creates obsession, Saturn creates lessons. Saturn connections often feel heavy but meaningful. These are relationships where timing becomes difficult, distance appears, delays happen, or responsibilities become overwhelming. Yet somehow, both people still feel connected. Saturn relationships teach maturity. Sometimes two people love each other deeply but cannot come together easily. Sometimes they meet at the wrong stage of life. Sometimes one person has to wait. Sometimes the relationship survives many hardships, and sometimes Saturn teaches through separation. Because Saturn's purpose is not fantasy, its purpose is growth. This is why Saturn related karmic relationships often change people permanently. After such relationships, people become emotionally stronger, wiser, and more realistic about love. And now let's talk about one of the strongest houses connected to karmic relationships, the 8th house. In Vedic astrology, the 8th house is not a simple house. It represents transformation, hidden emotions, vulnerability, emotional merging, secrets, and rebirth. When strong synastry happens through the 8th house, relationships often become psychologically deep. There are the connections where people become obsessed, emotionally exposed, and completely transformed. An 8th house relationship may begin suddenly, but once it enters your life, it rarely leaves you unchanged. These connections can feel magnetic. You may feel drawn towards someone even when logic says otherwise. And sometimes these relationships become the biggest emotional turning point of life because the 8th house destroys old versions of you. Now, here is something important many people misunderstand. A karmic relationship is not always a soulmate relationship, and it is definitely not always a healthy relationship. Sometimes karmic relationships are temporary. Their purpose may be to teach, to awaken, to heal, or to complete unfinished emotional karma. Many people stay attached because the intensity feels spiritual. But intensity alone does not guarantee peace, especially when Rahu dominates the relationship. Rahu can create emotional addiction. You may confuse obsession with destiny. You may keep returning to a person who continuously hurts you, simply because the emotional pull feels impossible to resist. This is why Vedic astrology does not judge relationships only by attraction. Peace matters, stability matters, emotional safety matters too. This is where planets like Jupiter and Venus become very important. A relationship strongly blessed by Jupiter often brings guidance, wisdom, respect, emotional protection, and growth. Venus brings affection, harmony, beauty, romance, and mutual enjoyment. Without supportive energies, karmic relationships can become emotionally draining. The connection may feel deep but exhausting, powerful but unstable, and many people eventually realize something important. Not every person who changes your life is meant to stay forever. Some people are chapters, not the whole book. One very common sign of karmic relationships is repetition. The same arguments repeat, the same emotional patterns repeat, breakups and reunions repeat, because karma repeats until the lesson is understood. Sometimes the lesson is self worth, sometimes boundaries, sometimes emotional independence, sometimes forgiveness, and sometimes the lesson is learning to let go. This is why karmic relationships often continue until inner growth finally happens. The outer relationship may end, but the inner transformation stays forever. Another important thing astrologers study is the moon. The moon represents emotions, emotional security, memory, and the mind itself. When someone deeply affects your moon, they affect your emotional world. You may think about them constantly. Your mood changes because of them. Even their presence feels emotionally powerful. This is why moon connections often feel comforting and painful at the same time, especially when mixed with Rahu, Ketu, or Saturn. The emotional attachment becomes difficult to explain logically. In deeper chart analysis, astrologers also study the Navamsa chart. The Navamsa is considered one of the most important charts for marriage, destiny, and soul level relationships. When the same karmic patterns repeat in both the birth chart and Navamsa, the relationship usually carries strong significance, especially when Rahu and Ketu repeat connections. The seventh house becomes activated. or the Atma Karaka connects strongly with relationship indicators. Atma Karaka is the planet which has the highest degree in your chart. And these combinations often show that the relationship has a deeper purpose beyond ordinary attraction. But here is the most important thing to understand. Karmic relationships are not punishments. They are experiences, sometimes beautiful, sometimes painful, but often deeply transformative. Many people spiritually awaken after heartbreak. Many become emotionally mature after loss. Many discover their true value only after difficult relationships force them to face themselves honestly. And strangely, some of the hardest relationships become the reason a person finally grows into who they were meant to become. At the end, Vedic astrology teaches something very powerful. Every relationship enters life with a purpose. Some bring comfort, some bring lessons, some bring healing, and some completely change the direction of your soul journey. The real question is not, was this relationship karmic? The real question is, what did this relationship awaken inside me? Because karma is not only about suffering. Sometimes karma is the process through which the soul evolves. And maybe some people are sent into our lives not just to be loved, but to transform us forever.